Wake
Go.
up.
Welcome to our
Oh.
podcast, season 2 of Wake Up Wednesdays. It's so good to see all of you here, whether you're listening live or in person. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Ben. How are you? How is
Wow.
everybody this morning? Good morning, everyone. How are you? How are you? How are you? How you be? What's new and exciting in the world?
And rather than just like watching us while we keep talking, like I would encourage you to answer that question in the comments. And
Actually, you know what? There was a gentleman who was watching the podcast yesterday. Maybe he's here today. I don't know. And uh, Journey of Man was his handle. And I actually went to his Instagram page, and there was this beautiful video he had about how we communicate with each other. And it was so beautiful. It was beautiful about how we communicate with each other, but especially men. I think he also
mm,
does men's work too, Ben. And he said, he in the video, he said, instead of asking, how are you? What if we asked, how is your heart? And I just found that to be so beautiful, you know? So, how is your heart today, Ben?
that's so great. And I love that you asked that. And shout out to Journey of Man. I also have a video on my page that says the exact same thing. So it's really funny that that's what's there because that's actually what I ask every man in my life.
That's beautiful. So
Um,
beautiful.
and thank you for representing me to that because I haven't asked you that in a long time.
Yeah.
So my heart today is full. It's really full. It's a bit fragile.
Yeah.
Um, it's like it feels like a little tired and wired. Like I'm so fired up about life and what's going on for myself and what I'm creating and the possibilities I've tapped into in the world and in healing and in growth. And also, I am in a very vulnerable position. And so my heart is feeling like not fully safe, not fully held. And the opportunity is how I've been able to ask for help. So I have a fractured wrist for those of you who couldn't see in the camera. And so that's part of what has me get to be vulnerable and deal with not being fully functional and deal with like part of the integrity that's out of my body that you know I could try to do everything myself now, or I could really try to
Yeah.
find help. So that's part of what had me want to say this today. And I heard you in our daily downloads. For those of you who don't know, every morning, 7 days a week for like almost 2 years, this amazing human with me here, Daniel, uh, Robert Daniel Tuttle III, has been leading meditations free of charge uh, for his community and for anyone in the world as he travels the world every day. And occasionally he takes some great breaks, self-care breaks, but he's able to show up, and it's incredible. And it's part of my medicine and daily practice and healing and grounding. It's where I invite my father and the people I've lost in my life to sit with me and be with me. It's where I check in with my heart, and I create a new intention almost every morning because it's a structure I can count on that creates integrity for me to do so. And when I don't, I feel it. I
Beautiful.
feel the difference. And in that download this morning, Daniel shared something about balance and chaos. And those are two things that literally I fractured my wrist after it was my 5th run. I've been getting really good at snowboarding, and I created that for my life this year. At 42, I'd take up snowboarding. I was even doing jumps at the end. But the moment I fell is a moment after all of that. After I sort of, my mind wandered,
Yeah.
and I ended up facing down the mountain and just slamming face forward down, and I lost my balance. So that's all that happened for a fraction of a second, so quickly that it caught me off guard because I've been practicing balance on a balance board
The literal balance.
every
Yeah.
day, a literal balance,
Yeah.
and I've been practicing Tai Chi or meditation or yoga almost every day, healing my body every day from like I've been preparing my body like a professional snowboarder, like icing and Epsom salt baths and
Yeah.
the massage thing and all kinds of stuff. And yet there's a moment where I lost balance, and it felt like I broke my own heart, because everything I cared about was taken away in that moment.
Right.
Like, that's what it appeared as. My balance, my ability to function. The pain was so intense that it sent my whole body into shock, and I just had to lay down for like an hour. I almost fainted several times. I was crying. I can't play guitar right now. But as I sat with it, I thought, well, I'm going to get surgery. I'm going to do physical therapy. What if guitar becomes part of my physical therapy? And then I opened and tuned my guitar so I can just play it with my right hand, and it just sounds
Wow,
beautiful.
that's so
And so I've been working on that. And I wrote a song on piano yesterday.
with one
I
hand.
haven't written a song on piano, and I've written one song on piano
Yeah,
6 years ago with
very
one hand.
cool.
And it's like, when we get forced in these places where we feel out of balance,
Uh-huh.
it's amazing what we can show up if we're willing to receive. And then the last thing I want to say is chaos. I actually was talking about that with my friend Matt Johnson on a drive yesterday, because chaos shows up in my life. I have it that my wife is chaos, and I used to make her wrong for that. And someone else, a woman, called her out on that recently, and I was like, oh, it makes so much sense. She's chaos. No wonder I feel so unsafe. Like, I'm trying to create the opposite, and I've been judging her for that. But if you actually look up the definition of chaos, it says seemingly random,
Yes,
but
exactly.
actually a very sensitive response to change in the environment. Seemingly random, but it's not at all. And then I found so much compassion for
Yeah.
her, and that her chaos is her beauty, is her creativity, and I have it too. I'm just
Yes.
afraid of it.
And what if chaos
so
was
you spoke
the
to
thing?
my heart today,
Oh, thank
and when
you
you
for
asked
sharing that.
how my heart was, this was all there.
Thank you for
So
sharing
thank you
that.
for being such a great space for me to listen. And what's opening up for you out of this?
Well, I want to speak about chaos because I love chaos. I love chaos. I'll tell you why I love chaos, because chaos for me is the greatest source of creation, right? It's like whether the chaos comes from the universe, which many, many, many of us are experiencing right now, with all of the elements changing and all the planets changing. And if those of you who aren't tuned into astrology or not even aware of it, you probably might be go, yeah, something really interesting is happening. And the truth is that we're going through some immense planetary changes, and immense planetary changes create this ripple effect that also affects every single one of us. It doesn't matter what your sign is or what this is. Obviously, it affects different signs in different ways. This is not an astrology podcast, so we'll put that on the side. But I want you to know that it's not you. I want everyone to know that the chaos, the drama, the trauma, the this, the that, all of that stuff that's coming up in your life is really, really, really not yours. And we try to make it ours. And we go, oh, my wife's chaos is my problem, or the universe's chaos is my problem, or that mass shooting is my problem, or this or that, right? And we see it and we go on, and it's an opportunity to say, where does that chaos exist within me, right? And that's the only place that we can change it. We can't change it in the reactive form. We can't change it from the outside. We can't change it after it's done. But we have to look inside and say, hey, you know what? Where is the mass shooting that exists within me? Where is the hate that causes a mass shooting within me? Where is the erratic, neurotic wife that I'm judging outside of me, inside of me? Where is she? Because if you see it in the world, it exists within you, right? So that's why I love chaos, because I
So much
see
so,
it
yeah.
and I go, oh shit, where? How is that me, right? And so what if that was just the source or the inspiration, the springboard for inspiration, the springboard for creation, Ben, right? If we find ourselves in a place like you're telling me this story, are you telling us this beautiful story of everything that you've gone through over the last course of the last week? And first of all, empathically, I am so sorry that you are going through it. And I know that it cannot be easy given all that you do with your hands and all of that. but it's what I see is like, holy shit, this is so beautiful, because Ben, you're such a person who's such a giver, right? You're such a giver, and you're always out there, and you're always doing things for other people, and you've created a life in which your business is helping others. And what if this situation was the space in which, like you said, you have to ask for help? You have to look at things a little bit differently. You have to try things a little bit differently. You've got to tune your guitar or tune your life, right? To allow other spaces and other opportunities to be a contribution for what you're asking for. Because you ask for a lot. You have a massive ask, like you have a burning desire. It's one of the things that connects us that I love so much about you. But, we've got to be willing to receive those things that we're asking for. And if we're not, the universe goes, hey, you know what, Ben? I'm so happy you're having fun with this snowboarding thing, but this is a great opportunity to learn something, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I was muted actually. So one of the first times, I'm going to say this again, one of the first times I got to be with Daniel in a healing session was when I saw him around my father. And I had a snowboard to the face, a surfboard to the face, and I had a really bad surgery where I was supposed to lose my eye. And I recovered from it, and then my father passed, and it was just a really intense time. And I felt my body in the way, and he said, a healing session, would you like to know what it's like to be able to connect with your father without having to be injured? And that was really powerful for me. And I realized how, there's days when I've hoped I was sick so that I could take a break and ask for help. So, and I see this everywhere right now. I'm really seeing this in the planets. The energy is so powerful right now. I've heard someone text me, 6 of their friends broke their left wrist in the last few months. People are falling. There's balance going out. A lot of burnout. Companies are either exploding or collapsing. I'm seeing a lot of that and that out of balance. But there's also, I think, things are righting themselves.
Mhm.
And so, I've gotten to help release that pain. And I've seen one of the reasons I broke my wrist is because I actually do a high action extreme sports. I'm
Correct.
extremely physical, adventure seeking person. And part of that,
Mhm.
just like the language of business is risk, and the language of sports sometimes is risk. So it's, even they said if I had been wearing my wrist guards, which I wasn't, and I beat myself up for many hours until the paramedic said, I even texted my friend Matt, said, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm really dealing with shame and my ego right now. I had my wrist guards in my backpack and they weren't on my wrist. And I promised myself I would do that today. And I broke my wrist last year when on a skateboard, I didn't have a wrist guard on.
Yeah.
How much more do I have to keep suffering to learn this lesson?
Yeah.
And the paramedic said, we actually don't recommend people wear wrist guards that much anymore, because had you worn your wrist guards, you might have actually sent the impact further up your arm and fractured your entire arm. And that would have been a lot worse.
But
So
you knew your energetic body knew how to protect you.
maybe that was comforting.
Yeah.
I still have not fully let go of that. Had I worn them, this could have been prevented. But the thing is, I wasn't wearing them, and it has happened. So there's no what if the past is in the past. It's already happened.
Exactly. And what if
So
it
all I can
wasn't?
create is the future.
Yeah, of course. And what if it was just necessary? I know that sounds weird. I, I don't mean necessarily that you have to go through the pain and suffering, but the whatever the lessons are imminent. right? And
Yeah,
clearly,
yeah,
when it comes to that point, where we suffer something like that, it's like there's such a resistance energetically and spiritually. It's like it comes to that point for us to learn our lesson, you know? And so the
yeah,
opportunity now, of course, because you can't change anything in the past, the opportunity is to look at everything that you've gone through or that you are going through and say, hey, you know what lesson did I not did I choose not to remember or choose not to learn that kept forcing me into the space of having to be put in this position. And don't make yourself wrong about it, man. Who fucking cares if you didn't wear your wrist guards? You know? It's
yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that's how my ego shows up. And I realized that shame is so deeply programmed. So I've
Mhm.
gotten a lot of great awareness around it. I teach courses around shame.
Right.
That I was actually developing one with this amazing chef, Adam Lamb, who's now
Uh-huh.
a coach of chefs, and he's retired because his body is so beaten from having been in that job, and he got himself out of that cycle. And to see that chefs have the number one suicide rate of any profession on the planet, and
Mhm.
and he's trying to stop that, and he's actually having to deal with the repercussions of him starting to find balance again. So he's in a lot of pain this week, and we both had to surrender. I'm like, dude, I have
Yeah.
to reschedule our planning meeting because I broke my wrist, and he's like, well, I'm laid out on my back, and my children are here, and so I think we both needed to let go and ask for help this week.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
and we were both dealing with that, right? Because we both want to be of service. And if I always say, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll make time for your illness.
Exactly. I
And
love
I do make time for my wellness. So this isn't even actually like an illness. This is just like, it's literally a break and an opportunity to heal,
that. Yeah. Let's
literally.
let's
And I was so scared to
yeah.
get surgery, but the wrist doctor said, actually, if you just left it like this, you wouldn't even be able to move it for another 6 weeks. It would be warped when it heals. You probably won't get full flexion. But if you get surgery this week, I can have you moving your wrist in 2 weeks, and you could be playing guitar in a month, and maybe my bone would be stronger with titanium in it. I don't know.
Maybe.
So who knows what else is possible?
You said something so beautiful too that I think I want to remind us all, right? We are always looking for balance. We're always talking about, oh, I need to have balance in my life. I need to have a balance between having fun or working hard or all this and all that. And the thing is like, you see what happens when you don't acknowledge the balance that you have, right? This is what happens when you acknowledge that you don't have balance. The universe goes, hey, I'm going to throw you back into balance and alignment. The thing is also is like, you want to always remember, if you're struggling to find balance, just look in nature. Nature is the greatest example of balance. Balance already exists. Nature doesn't go, oh my God, I'm struggling for balance. I need to have balance in my life. Nature goes, hey, you know what? The sun is going to come up and the sun is going to go down. The plants are going to blossom in the spring and they're going to die in the winter. Just a part of life, right? So if we can look at the balance that exists in the world around us and say, hey, I'm a part of that. I'm not separate from it. I'm a part of that. And allow yourself to be in the flow of that, then we can also acknowledge that you are already perfect, right? Everybody struggles for this
Yeah.
need to be to that we're not perfect or this or that. But what if you already are as perfect as nature is? You don't look at nature and say, oh my God, the plants are dying, I have to save them. No, you go, okay, they're going to die and they're going to, we'll have a new blossom in the spring. The same thing for us. Everything is in balance. Everything is in a perfect, beautiful, magical symbiosis. And Ben, I have to say, like, this is also a part of that energy, right? Part of that energy is what you're going through. It's like, hey, okay, so you maybe the pendulum swung a little bit to the left, and now it's just got to come a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, I'm definitely growing from it. I've already watched like 10 different snowboard videos of honing my technique to get better. Just like paramedic, I'm like, well, what can I do if it's not wrist guards? What's the answer? And he's like, don't fall, get better at snowboarding.
That is a really great answer. I love that.
Touche. Yeah. Daniel, where do you struggle with balance in your life? And if you're listening and if you're listening live, I'd love for you to comment on that. You don't have to out yourself. It's a great opportunity just to take inventory and look and see. And on that also, Daniel, I want to ask you a part B. I've been meaning to ask you for months as you travel the world. How do you find balance with time change and your sleep rhythms? I'm really curious about that because you always seem like present and rested. And maybe it's just because you look great and you might feel like poop, but I'm really curious with switching time zones so much. My body feels very sensitive to that. Like, how do you find balance when you're moving?
Well, I'll answer the first part of that question first. I really do feel incredibly balanced. I don't feel unbalanced. I feel like my life is really, every once in a while, I will acknowledge that I'm choosing work more than I am choosing me. And sometimes I go, oh, hey, you know what? I'm going to cancel all my sessions for Friday and I'm going to take Friday off. I'm not afraid to do that. And I tell my clients, I'm like, listen, I need a day off. So I'm pushing you. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. So I think every once in a while, I will find myself out of balance in terms of my desire to work because I love what I do, like you. I love what I do. I love the people. And oftentimes people are texting me at all hours of the day, all hours of the night. Can I have a session? Can I have a session? Can I have a session? And I just naturally, I'm like, yeah, let's do this or let's do that or let's do this. And my schedule is full. And then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even take time to, make time for myself. So that's one of the places that I'm actively involved in choosing balance. Okay, how can I choose balance? What can I create here that would allow me to feel rejuvenated for my sessions, rejuvenated for my clients? And
What
also
are some of
meditation, as
those?
when I began the daily download in over 2 years ago, it changed my life. I actually did it for Cassie, for your wife. Your wife was the one who was like, Daniel, would you do these downloads every day? We were in a class together, and I think you were going through the eye thing actually at that time. And
I
I
was,
was
yeah.
doing a class. Cassie was in one of my classes, and Cassie said, Daniel, when you give these downloads, it's just so magical. She's like, I would love to do this every day. And, that
Mm.
ask created something for the world, but also for me. And for me, I recognize and realize even my mom who now comes to the downloads or my family, I'm not a person who is so consistent like that. Like I don't follow form and structure very well. And so every single day at 8:45 a.m., no matter where in the world I am, to stop and take 15 minutes for me is the greatest act of choosing balance, right? And that's what keeps me in harmony. That's what keeps me in balance. Now, to answer your second question about dealing with time change and all of that across the world, we have a practice in my spiritual practice where obviously we're talking about it all the time. And it's a part of the meditation, the theta healing meditation that is called the download, right? And I will often always invite my body to acclimate to the energy of wherever I'm in, right? Usually we resist it. Usually if we're in another time zone, we're like, oh my God, I'm jet lagged. And how am I? And we try to figure out the numbers. Well, for me right now, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, but it's 10 o'clock at night here. We go into that chaos and drama, and then our body goes, what? And so I start to begin before I travel to a new place, like we're going to be in Bangkok for a few months, start to ask my body, like, body, what time is it in Bangkok? My body goes, oh, it's 11 p.m. in Bangkok. Okay, cool. And so I start to get acclimated with my body. And then usually what I find is that when I get to whatever city it is, I naturally go to bed earlier than I would in the West, in the West, right? Or anywhere else. Like if I'm in Asia, I might go to bed at like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and I don't resist it. I don't fight it. I just do it. And then I'll wake up early. And then somehow, somewhere, it actually works out. I don't struggle with, what do you call it? Jet lag anymore. My body actually is totally good with it. So, and also I'm pretty consistent with my schedule, right? So my schedule, even though it's 8:45 a.m. here, In Bali, it's going to be seven, or I'm sorry, in Bangkok, it's going to be 7:45 p.m. there. So then the daily download for me will happen at 7:45 p.m. instead of 8:45 a.m. It's also having that grounding, that consistency, right? To always know what is required, where your cornerstones are. Oh, this is what I do at this time. This is how I do it here. Just those things, I think, is really important.
So I hear a lot of healing and routine and ritual
Ritual. Can we call
and
it ritual? I hate the
asking.
word routine. Everything that I'm
Mhm.
resisting about routine, can we just join and create it? I hate that word. Ritual. Ritual sounds a little lighter, but I know what you're saying.
I love ritual. Well, ritual can be so important. I mean, like morning rituals, and no matter where you wake up or what it looks like, just getting to see the
Yeah,
sun is one of the greatest things you can do to reset your circadian
yeah,
rhythms, right? Have a
totally.
meal, like eat as if you're like act as if you're already on that time zone.
Yeah.
Right. So I really appreciate that, all of that. And what are some of the tools that I mean that you mentioned a great tool to find balance there and asking for and doing that energy pull of that location. What are some other tools you use to find balance in your life today when those things are when you get pressed for time? You said you taking a day off is one thing you
Mhm.
do. Are there any other things that you put in?
Yes, I breathe and I drink water.
Mm, those are really
Two
good.
of the greatest sources that are completely free, that don't require any money, any time, anything, and are always available to you. Yet they're the two things that we ignore the most, right?
Mm. Yeah. Oh,
Guys,
yeah.
cannot stress enough how just acknowledging how short your breathing is. We all do it. And just stop and take a deep breath and let it out, and you'll start to see your hormones will start to actually harmonize. Breath is the greatest harmonizer, and also water, because water is also a natural rejuvenant, whatever. But water and oxygen, and how easy is that? I used to be, back in my old New York actor days, I smoked a pack of cigarettes a day, right?
Wow.
I just loved smoking. I just loved it. And I was also working in restaurants and all that kind of stuff. And I acknowledged that the reason that I smoked, I looked back on it when I was like choosing something different. I realized that I was smoking so that I could have a break. I was actually smoking to take a breath. How ironic is that?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would be
Yeah.
like in the middle of the chaos or in the middle of whatever and be like, I have to go have a cigarette. And everybody's like, okay, go. Right. But if you would have said, if I would have said, hey, I need to go outside and take a second, everybody would have been like, why? What's wrong with you? Right.
Mhm.
We're in the
I
middle of
remember
the
the best
free
way to
theater
get
rush.
breaks.
This is New York City. You can't take 5 minutes to go outside. Yet, however, if I said, hey, can I have a cigarette? They're like, yeah, go. So it's
I
so
remember
interesting.
that in the restaurant business. Like somehow as
Remember?
if you smoke cigarettes, you'd get more breaks. I was like, I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette too
Oh,
then.
hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Just to take a
That's
break. Yeah.
amazing.
It was
But that's the
wild
energy. The energy is just
to
to give
take a
yourself the
breath.
permission to take a breath, you know?
Mm.
It's the
Thank you
mother of all balance and
for
healing,
that
for sure.
reminder too. And sleep is also free and amazing medicine.
Free and
We're
amazing.
underslept, we're dehydrated, and probably don't breathe as much as we could.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
heard a saying from the ancient yogis that we have a limited amount of breaths per life. And so the slower we breathe, the longer we live. And so
Wow,
if we
that's so
can actually
beautiful.
start to slow down our breath, releases tension. I mean, that's so true because cortisol shortens your life if you're staying fried and wired all day,
Yeah.
right? Like the burnout and all of that. So if breath is that access, wow, you could actually live longer and save your life just by remembering to breathe more often.
Yes,
Or
exactly.
even if you set an alarm. I have a compassion alarm for my all the guys in dude school right now, and I do all the work with them. And 3 times a day, we have a compassion alarm go off, and that was one
Uh-huh.
of the weeks. But now we do it for the whole rest of the semester, and
So
we're
cool.
reprogramming our brains. It went off right before this, and I was like, "Motherfucker, stupid alarm!" I was like, "Oh,
Can you
compassion."
share with us what that is?
Yeah. What happens when the
Yeah.
alarm goes off? Oh yeah. So the
What do you
tool
do?
I give, so many of us are just programmed to beat ourselves up or not experience compassion. It's not regular. So I have an alarm set 3 times a day at 9:30, 1, and 5, I think,
Okay.
sometimes, and I forget. And it goes off and it just says compassion. And usually it's an interrupter. It doesn't, I don't love
Yeah.
my alarms going off, even with a little twinkle sound. It never feels like an appropriate time. And then I look down and it says compassion. In that moment, I breathe, as I just did. I ask myself, am I being compassionate with myself right now? And then, am I being compassionate with the space if there's someone else there?
Wow.
And it's just been a great
Beautiful.
check-in for me. I'll be in the middle of something with my partner, or just with a client, or on our call right now. And so that's things I'm practicing to reprogram my brain to choose compassion more often.
That's amazing.
And it's really a simple thing. And so a bunch of us are doing it. A bunch of guys who don't naturally practice compassion are practicing together. Um, so I find those are some really great tools. Sitting in meditation, accountability. I really use team and accountability and for balance. Ritual like running. I find exercise really helps me balance either exercise or stillness. And if you're used to moving your body all the time, then I want to encourage you to find like what's the balance side of that. Like
Hmm.
if you're looking at your life as a yin yang, which part do you have going really well, and then where are you missing something you might be able to put in? Like is that yang, that darkness really strong and powerful, but is your like softness and your yin slower? Or are you really good at being like slow and lazy and not really doing the things you care about, and it's starting to weigh on you? Then there's some of that like you can put in some discipline or ritual or accountability.
Yeah.
We don't have to do anything alone.
That's
We really
right.
don't. We're not designed to. So I really find that doing it with other people just up levels us immediately.
So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Ben. I love that. I'm going to create a compassion alarm.
Yay!
Yeah.
Let me know. I can't wait to hear about the times with it annoys you and you're like, oh, okay.
Now it's a compassion alarm. I'm busy.
That was not the time.
Now it's not the time for a compassion alarm. I love it.
Well, I love you. I would love to hear,
I love
you
you.
guys have been a great listener, great audience. I would love to hear what's resonating for you. If there's any places in your life where you feel out of balance or you would like to seek balance, let us know how we can support you. Thank you,
Yes, please.
Jason. Happy always is here, Mr. Kim Fisher. Team happiness, love, compassion, reminders. Sound is really great. Your voice, Jason said, doing a sound bath, which is great. Yeah, I have singing bowls, but your voice is one of the most amazing sound baths you can give you.
Yeah, it's true.
Yourself, your voice is designed to resonate with the exact frequency you need for your own healing.
Yeah.
And Jason also said here is exercise is missing. So what could you put in place that would have that show up?
Right.
Because beating yourself up around not going to the gym or not having exercise doesn't help you exercise.
Exactly.
Right? So it's actually taking a new action. So I usually find, again, like having a buddy or switching up what we think exercise needs to look like. Rather than going to the gym for 90 minutes, could you take a walk for 5 minutes today and just start doing that?
Exactly.
Move a muscle, change the world.
Exactly. There's a really great practice called NFT. I think it's called NFT.
Yeah.
No. NFT?
EFT.
Is that the tapping? EFT. EFT with tapping.
EFT, emotional freedom technique. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really,
I love
really
that.
amazing. So it's a tapping exercise that is really congruent with helping us to align. So that also brings us forward and brings us present. Oh. Ben, I have to run. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you guys. Thank you all for being here, for tapping in and tuning in and all that amazing magic. How does it get in?
Yes. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast.
Exactly.
Thank
guys,
you all
have a great day.
Yes, we love you, Daniel.
Thank you. I love you too.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.